At least 17 Palestinians, mainly women and children, die in an Israeli airstrike on a Gaza shelter. Hamas says it is seriously reviewing a new ceasefire proposal from international mediators. And UNRWA warns. Hunger is used as a weapon in Gaza and urges immediate humanitarian access. You're watching Q News at 8 with me, Hani Saif, and in the news today, at least 17 Palestinians, mostly women and children, have been killed in an Israeli airstrike on a building sheltering displaced families in Gaza City's Zaytun neighborhood. The deadly attack is part of a wide escalation across Gaza, where Israeli forces have reportedly killed at least 67 people in the past 24 hours, including 11 aid seekers and those living in tents. According to Gaza's health ministry, Israel's war has now killed over 57,000 people and wounded more than 134,000. Hamas has said it is seriously reviewing a new ceasefire proposal put forward by international mediators. Senior official Tahir al-Nunu stated that the group is ready to accept any initiative that ensures a complete end to the war and a full withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza. The statement comes amid growing international pressure to hold a 9-month conflict. However, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has repeatedly rejected any deal that includes a full military pullout or allows Hamas to remain in power. Israeli Justice Minister Yariv Levin has called for what he described as a historic opportunity to formally annex the occupied West Bank. Levin said the time had come to apply Israeli sovereignty to the territory, which has been under military occupation since 1967, but never officially annexed. His remarks come as Israel deepens its presence in the West Bank, following the October 7th Hamas attack and the subsequent war on Gaza. In 2024 alone, Israel declared more than 24,000 dunams of land as state land and recognized 68 illegal settlement outposts, a move widely condemned internationally. U.S. President Donald Trump says Israel has accepted conditions for a 60-day ceasefire in Gaza. Trump said the U.S. will work with all sides to end the conflict during this period. His team held lengthy talks with Israeli officials, and he hopes Hamas will agree. Egypt and Qatar are expected to present the final proposal soon. For more analysis, we now move to Rana Al-Assas in our newsroom. Rana.
Thank you very much, Hani. And for further analysis, we're joined from Cairo by Ashraf Al-Ashri, an Ahram newspaper managing editor. A very good day, sir, and it's a pleasure to have you with us in today's analysis. Sir, given Hamas's statement expressing openness to a complete ceasefire and full Israeli withdrawal, but Israel's firm rejection of these terms, what realistic diplomatic pathways remain to reach a sustainable truce that genuinely protects Palestinian civilians.
Greetings to you and to the viewers. Definitely these these sticking points are still in consultations between the mediators, Egypt and Qatar, with the United States, as well as the Hamas movement. Already there has been talks for days now to bridge the gap of disagreement between the two sides, Israel and Hamas, to find some kind of common grounds and meet halfway to prove the truth announced by President Trump yesterday, that Israel approved of this proposal. And many media agencies stressed that Egypt and Qatar are meeting now with Hamas and for the next several hours for a final response to this proposal proposed by the United States to conclude the deal. To my estimate, the current proposal led by President Trump and his success in ending the Iranian war is pushing him to exert more effort, leading the US administration in the next meeting with Netanyahu, scheduled to be held on Monday in the White House, to practice some pressure to compromise and conclude a deal of a ceasefire to continue for 60 days without an Israeli war or pressures to be exerted on Hamas, and to give a sustainable humanitarian aid access and achieve some sort of balance that meets the aspirations of both sides, Israel and Hamas. And this can be brokered by the mediators, Qatar and Egypt and the United States, with guarantees from President Trump himself. I think everything now is indicating, and the efforts are indicating, that there will be a return to talks and negotiations, and that we might witness a ceasefire soon.
Hopefully, we will witness a ceasefire as soon as possible, with over 57,000 Palestinians killed and ongoing strikes on shelters and tents. What immediate measures can the international community implement to ensure civilian protection and prevent further mass casualties beyond mere calls for restraint?
Unfortunately, all calls end up the same way, from the European Union, from the Middle East region, from Russia, China, and the Security Council of the United Nations did not have a role in pressuring for a ceasefire. This card is only held by the United States, which is the main actor to practice pressure on Israel. If the US administration decided to fulfill their pledges to achieve a ceasefire in Gaza during the next week, this will get into force immediately. And the international community, as well as the regional community, will support such a decision. And that's why the United States did not practice pressure throughout the past attempts, and some Security Council decisions that were issued during the Biden reign did not follow through.
How does Israel's push to formally annex parts of the West Bank, including rapid settlement expansion and demolitions, impact not only the current war in Gaza, but also the overall viability of the two-state solution?
Certainly, these steps are hindrances before getting into a political settlement. I think the U.S. administration, led by President Trump, and the U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff stated that there will be a settlement in the Middle East, and the new states will join the Abraham Accords. And I think establishing a Palestinian state with the West Bank and Gaza will lead to a truce in the Middle East, and will bring stability. I think that the comprehensive deal talked about by Witkoff and Trump will bring peace to the Middle East. And and this will be brokered by the main mediators, and consequently all the attention now is directed towards stopping the war in Gaza so that we can follow with the next steps regarding the essence of the political comprehensive settlement for the Gaza issue.
Sir, as you mentioned in your answer, the main mediators, what role can Egypt, Qatar, and now the United States under Trump's proposed 60-day ceasefire play in bridging the wide gap between Israel and Hamas, and what leverage do they realistically have to enforce any agreement?
Certainly, the mediator's role is very positive, and it was very essential during the past few months. The Egyptian role is highly distinguished due to its expertise throughout 5 wars and confrontations with Israel and Hamas. We have international legitimacy and consensus from the international community. Due to our integral role in the Middle East, we have led the initiatives for previous ceasefire and for any humanitarian aid entrance, and it can be integrated by the talks and consultations between Egypt and Qatar, as Egypt remains in the forefront leading the efforts and endeavors to find a common ground for a ceasefire agreement. We have a project and a plan for the post-ceasefire stage called the early recovery of the Gaza Strip, and this was approved March 4th in the international conference held here in Cairo.
From Cairo, that was Ashraf Al-Ashri, Al News paper managing editor. Thank you very much for your insights and analysis. I really appreciate your time and your intellectual and informative knowledge. And now we go back to Hani Saif in our studios. Hani?
Thank you, Rana. Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Saar has said the war in Gaza can end tomorrow if Hamas releases all remaining detainees and lays down its arms. Speaking during a visit to Estonia, Saar claimed Israel is serious about securing a ceasefire, but insisted it depends on Hamas's actions. He also linked the conflict to wider regional threats, calling the war a global fight between the free world and what he described as Iran's axis of terror.
Our relationship to new heights. Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East.
Israeli forces have ordered the demolition of over 100 homes in the Tulkarm refugee camp in the occupied West Bank, leaving around 400 Palestinian families facing displacement. Residents rushed to recover their belongings after being given just a 2-hour deadline by Israeli authorities. The time was not enough for families to evacuate their possessions. UNRWA warns hunger is being used as a weapon in Gaza and urges immediate humanitarian access. The UN agency says many residents are collapsing from severe food and water shortages. It describes the crisis as critical and calls for urgent, safe aid delivery under UN supervision to prevent further civilian suffering. Iran's president has signed a law suspending cooperation with the IAEA. President Masoud Pezeshkian formally ordered the move after the parliament's decision. Tehran says the measure responds to Western pressure and recent attacks on its nuclear facilities, raising global proliferation concerns. Senior Tibetan leaders say the next Dalai Lama could be born outside Tibet, rejecting China's claim to control his succession. At a religious conference in Dharamshala, Samdong Rinpoche stressed there is no geographical limit for the Dalai Lama's reincarnation, citing past births in Mongolia and India. He confirmed the Dalai Lama remains healthy and has not issued formal succession plans. Rinpoche emphasized that only the Gedin Phodrang Trust has the authority to recognize his successor, dismissing any Chinese interference.
Kind of restriction the Dalai Lama should born in Tibet.
China insists that its government must approve any future Dalai Lama, reinforcing control over the succession process. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning said the next Dalai Lama must be chosen under Chinese laws and historical customs, including a domestic search and state approval using the Golden Urn system. Mao argued that Tibetan Buddhism has Chinese characteristics and must adapt to national policies. The remarks underline Beijing's efforts to tighten religious control and assert authority over Tibet's spiritual leadership. Greece has introduced a €20 fee for cruise ship tourists arriving in Santorini, aiming to ease over-tourism and fund infrastructure upgrades. The volcanic island welcomes around 2 million visitors a year, despite a population of just 15,000. Authorities will begin collecting the fee on July 21st, with lower charges during off-peak months. While some tourists and locals support the move, cruise operators say the fee unfairly targets their sector and won't solve the issue of overcrowding. The European Commission has proposed a new 2040 climate target, allowing countries to use foreign carbon credits for the first time. The EU executive outlined a legally binding plan to cut net greenhouse gas emissions by 90% by 2040 compared to the 1990 levels. The move aims to keep Europe on track for net zero by 2050. Following opposition from several member states, the proposal includes flexibilities to ease the burden on European industries. Until now, EU targets relied only on domestic emission cuts, making this a major policy shift. Germany is bracing for extreme heat, with temperatures forecast to reach up to 40 degrees Celsius in some areas. The German Meteorological Service issued widespread heat warnings, urging caution amid health risks. In Berlin, where the year's hottest day was forecast, construction workers continued their duties under the blazing sun. The heat wave gripping much of Europe has sparked health alerts and raised concerns over public safety and energy demand. As temperatures rise in Germany, animals at Karlsruhe Zoo are staying cool with some creative help. Polar bears are enjoying icy treats and plunged pools filled with cold well water, with tortoises and emus are getting refreshing showers from zookeepers. Zoo spokesman Timo Dibel says every enclosure is equipped with shade and water access, allowing animals to choose how they cool off. He adds that such enrichment not only helps them stay comfortable, it also keeps their minds engaged. A severe storm has battered Sydney for a second day, bringing destructive winds and heavy rain to Australia's southeast. Meteorologists describe the system as a bomb cyclone, with wind gusts topping 100 kilometers per hour. Trees and power lines were downed, leaving over 35,000 homes and businesses without electricity in New South Wales. Sydney Airport saw major disruptions, with at least 55 domestic flights cancelled and several international services delayed as heavy rain flooded parts of the city. Dozens of firefighters and 9 aircraft were deployed to battle a fast-spreading wildfire in the seaside village of Vuruvuru in northern Greece's Halkidiki region. Authorities urged residents to move towards the nearby town of Nikiti as a precaution. The blaze comes after an intense early summer heat wave, with the EU's Copernicus service warning that Europe is warming at twice the global average, causing more frequent and prolonged heat waves. As Europe's heat wave intensifies, Prague's zoos polar bears have found relief playing on ice to stay cool, with temperatures soaring to 37 degrees Celsius. Zoo staff provided ice blocks for the polar bears, which they use for cooling and play. Kea parrots from New Zealand also received special care to beat the heat. Prague authorities issued severe heat warnings to protect both residents and animals, as the city endures unusually high summer temperatures. Shanghai is hosting Asia's largest amusement industry expo, with hundreds of global companies showcasing new technologies and partnerships. The 4-day IAAPA Expo Asia runs through Thursday at the Shanghai New International Expo Center, covering over 8,600 square meters. Around 350 exhibitors are attending, offering innovative solutions for the fast-growing regional market. Shanghai has become a major hub for global theme park operators seeking to tap into China's booming entertainment sector. Now, the world's second-largest exhibitors say the fair offers key opportunities for new partnerships and business growth. Warsaw hosted Poland's National Tram Driver Championships on Sunday, featuring unique skill challenges for drivers from across the country. 12 teams competed in 10 creative events, testing precision and control over 40-ton trams. Challenges included knocking over bowling pins, maneuvering near cardboard figures without contact, and stopping precisely to help a disabled passenger. Organisers say teamwork and skill were key to success. The winning team will represent Poland at the World Tram Driver Championships in Vienna later this year. Almost a strike, but that brings us to the end of our news bulletin for now. Here's a reminder of today's main stories. At least 17 Palestinians, mainly women and children, die in an Israeli airstrike on a Gaza shelter. Hamas says it is seriously reviewing a new ceasefire proposal from international mediators. And UNRWA warns hunger is used as a weapon in Gaza and urges immediate humanitarian access. This concludes our news bulletin for now, but please don't forget to follow Qnews on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram and TikTok at Qnews EGY to stay informed. I'm Henny Safe, thank you for watching and stay tuned for more updates here on Qnews.